All right, everyone, we have Coach Isaiah Castilleja with us today from the Colorado School of Mines. This is my second time chatting with Coach. We've connected in the past, so it's good to have him back. I'm excited to, pull back the curtain a little bit on what he's got going on over there in Colorado. But first of all, Coach, Mike is in your hands this time. Why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everyone about maybe your upbringing in the field and some of those developmental opportunities that you had.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me. My name is Isaiah Castilleja. I'm currently an assistant strength and conditioning coach here at the Colorado School of Mines. And in July will be 1 year for me. So this is a new position for me here at Mines. And prior to this, I was the head strength and conditioning coach at Metro State University, which is in Denver, Colorado. And I was there for 8 years as the head strength and conditioning coach. And then before that, I had stops at the University of Colorado. I was at the Colorado School of Mines 10 years ago. And then Landau Performance. I started out there with Lauren Landau, and now he's the head strength coach of the Broncos. But started out as an intern there, a long time ago. And then I've also had stops at a few high schools and professional mixed martial artists. So it's been going everywhere, but I'm here now in Golden and loving it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's funny actually to hear how many current internship coordinators, obviously serving as full-time S&C coaches, make that full circle, like you being at Mines 10 years ago or whatever, and now you're back. And I think that just speaks to the nature of our profession of if you're hiring people, you want them to know what you're about, understand the philosophy, not just of the department, but of the school. You got to know, trust, and like them, right? Those are the three things. So it's always interesting to see those full circles come about. That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was great, man. It was, when you're a young strength coach, you always want to pursue the bigger and better. And then as soon as I left Mines 10 years ago, I knew I had to get back here. So luckily I had some good luck and some hard work, and I was able to get back here. But it's everything has a purpose, and it's all about where you've been and the experiences you learn from there.
Absolutely. Somebody said the phrase recently and it stuck with me. If you think the greenest grass are on the other side, if you think the grass is greener on the other side, try watering your own pastures first, type of thing,
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's always
no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was probably one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received. And that's why I was at MSU Denver for so long before I got here is I'd gone from a Power 5 school at the University of Colorado, and then to Metro State, which is a D2, and I was the first strength coach ever there. So there's literally nothing there, and it's easy to be like, man, I had it better other places. But I was lucky enough to talk to Coach Ron McKeefrey back in 2013, I think, or 2013 when I first got there, and Joe Ken, and it was at the time because the podcast I run, the Iron Game Chalk Talk.
Right.
I had been listening to the original version with Ron McKeefrey, and he's always talking about, helping out younger coaches and just reach out. So I was like, I'm gonna reach out. I'm gonna call you out on your stuff, and I'll either I'm gonna expose you because you ignored me and big time me, or you're really about that. And he was literally really about that. It's funny. I was on a podcast as a guest before I took over, and I found my original. I DM'd him on Twitter because Instagram wasn't what it was right now. So I DM'd him on Twitter in 2014, I think. And I was just like, hey, I'm starting this up. I need your help and everything. And he'd literally DM me back, and we just had correspondence there. But also Joe Ken, I told him the similar situation, and he always just said, the most important job you have is the one you're at now, and that have both feet on the ground, firmly planted, and make it. And both of them always said, make it the big time where you're at. So that's kind of been my MO, especially being at a D2, is I'm not going to complain or talk about the problems I have. I'm just going to come up with solutions and try to make it as big as I can. So I think luckily, haven't found any limits yet onto how big I can make it at the D2 level. So, but that's always it's always true. It's the grass is not always greener. It's just trying to take the opportunity you have right now and give it all you got and try to make it as big as possible.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Coach Mack and Joe Ken, what genuine coaches, but more importantly, genuine human beings. Yeah, that they'll always give you the time of day, and that's such a great characteristic to have. Got so much time for them, so much time.
Yeah, and they don't need to either. Like those
Right.
guys literally have a career where they could be like, I'm just gonna hang out and chill. I don't need to help anybody else, but they're still to this day are giving back. So I'm very lucky to have known them.
Exactly. Well, hey, I'm excited for any young coaches that kind of get to develop under you, because obviously you've been touched by so many people in terms of like on your development, and just like you said, you have those mentors, whether you speak with them once a year or once every week. You've got so many people who are kind of pouring into you. So in terms of the intern coaches at Minds that are going to be under your wing, what does the typical like daily, weekly schedule look like for them? What are their responsibilities?
So definitely, and I think it's been a product of my time at the D2 level. So at Metro and at Minds, like I'm an assistant coach here, and we have a head coach, and we're actually doing a lot of work, and the administration has been phenomenal here to the point where we're getting, paid interns or part-time or full-time assistants here. So like it's been tremendous being a part of this culture and by being a part of administration and all the staff that we work with, where we're getting help and it's looking really good here. But before my time here, I didn't have assistant coaches for a long time. So it was me and 16 teams, and I was drowning. I was like, all right, this is a lot. And I was teaching classes. So it was like, between the 16 teams, and I taught 12 credit hours with the classes, and I was married, and I was just about to have my first kid. So I was like, all right, this literally is just not possible. And I'm a hard worker. Like I took pride in how much work I was doing. And even then I was like, this is not sustainable. And I was younger back then. I was even back in my late 20s. I was like, there's got to be a better way. So I was able to get volunteers, and luckily either I pulled volunteers from graduating athletes that were willing to help out in the weight room. But I also taught a lot of classes in exercise science. So being an instructor there, I was able to talk to the younger coaches that wanted to be strength coaches and be like, hey, I need volunteers. And in the past, I've had like mixed things, like with Lauren Landau. You are not just a janitor. Like he was always quizzing us on anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, and then he'd have us run groups and run sessions. And I learned a lot from that, being thrown in the fire and being able to know all the stuff. And then when I came to mine 10 years ago, the coach there, his name was Adam Long, phenomenal coach. He was like, here's 3 teams, go handle it. And I was like, I just got out of like my like a semester of interning. So, and I helped out with football. So that was definitely thrown in the fire there. And then as I progressed, I noticed the big success for me becoming a good strength coach was I never was a glorified janitor. Now, granted, cleaning and maintenance is part of the job as an intern. Yeah. And like, even at CU, I was, stocking supplements and stuff and cleaning up, but they're always like, run this group, here's this team, here's this team. And I was able to run. So I learned on the fly. Fast forward to the curriculum I have now, cleaning and everything is just part of it, but it's not like you do it alone. Like I'll jump in there, all of our other assistants, like we jump in there, we'll clean with you. But I never had the privilege of having any full-time assistants. So I literally had to make the interns that came in every semester. I literally had to be like, all right, I don't have the bandwidth to be like, you're just cleaning and observing. Like you have to get in here and you have to learn how to coach. And so that was my big thing. And I knew it helped me out being thrown into fire. So I was like, look, you're going to have to start help leading dynamic warm-ups or memorize our mobility routine. So you can take one group while I get the other group started and whatnot. And it was just literally trial by fire for not just me, but also my interns. But I also wanted to, I wasn't getting the best interns, especially at Metro and at MSU Denver and at the Colorado School of Mines. We're not getting interns that just did an internship at Alabama, or we're not getting an intern that just did an internship at Duke. So we were getting really green, really inexperienced interns. So either highly educated, and it's unfortunate, and you know about this industry as much as I do, or I had people with masters and bachelors and maybe fully certified, but zero work experience.
Right.
So they're getting passed up on being all book knowledge with no application, or I'll get coaches that have been coaches for several years. So it was a combination of inexperience, whether it's book or application of that knowledge. So I never had really an intern that walked in. I was like, I've been in it a few years. I'm ready for it. So I knew then, not only do I have to throw these coaches in the fire, but if they mess up royally, or if something goes wrong, that's coming on me. So I was like, all right, so get really inexperienced coaches. I knew, I was like, all right, I'm going to throw them in the fire, but I'm going to literally give them every tool that I have in my book so I can just replicate an assistant strength coach. Even though you're a volunteer intern, like you have no choice. I call it like the strength coach boot camp. It's like an indoctrination. I was like, here is all things strength conditioning. I'm gonna give you all my knowledge, give you all my resources, have you talk to all my network, and be like, look, either you're about this life and you'll like swim, and like I'll help you get to that next level, or you can stick around my staff a little longer, or you just realize it's not for you. And there's no hard feelings, because it's not for everybody. But you're not going to be a glorified janitor here. Like, your job is to come in here and make an impact. And I'm not going to hold it against you if you don't know, because if you don't know, like, that's not your fault. So I'm going to sit there and give you everything I got as far as like the fundamentals of strength conditioning, which you're likely going to see out on other teams, and make you a bona fide strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you want to like allow them and give them freedom to make mistakes in a safe environment, because I feel like that's where you learn so fast, when you make those little mistakes, because it's not like you're being told what to do and you don't have the experience of making mistakes. You're involved in the learning process yourself, because you make the mistake and you're like, wow, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah. I definitely got burnt a couple of times. Yeah, I was like, oh boy, I can't make this mistake again. But luckily, it's been refined in the blood of our mistakes over the last 8 or 9 years, and it's a pretty refined process. And I've built very confident, no matter where you are in the application process, whether you've been here before or this is the very first thing you're doing, I could find a way to meet you where you're at and then help you develop to become a better strength coach.
Yeah, definitely. We say to our intern coach all the time, like, be so good that whoever can't ignore you. Like, be so good at that. And I don't think it matters whether you're in like a D3 setting, a D1 setting, Power 5, like mid-major, whatever. It doesn't matter that because we anticipate that most of the younger coaches that come to us, like you say, are not going to certainly not have like the real world applied coaching smarts. They might have some of the book smarts, like you said, but it takes time. And so I'm not expecting you to be like this assistant strength coach straight away, exactly. But I'm expecting you to have the mindset and the growth curve to show me that what you're going to be in 2-3 years time, for sure. Absolutely. For sure. So in terms of like developing these young coaches, obviously the curriculum is on your Connect page, and you got some interesting things in there. I definitely want to touch on that crisis management stuff as well. But tell us a little bit about your internship curriculum and what you chose to put in there, and kind of like why you thought it was important.
And I took some time, and like I said, this has been evolving, a very fluid process over the last almost decade. But I do take my time to eliminate the fluff out of internships or a profession, and be like, look, here's what you're going to need no matter where you go. Whether you go to a Power 5 school, but maybe they don't use Team Builder or any of the other like online like programming softwares. Mm-hmm. So I'd be like, you're going to have to learn to make an Excel spreadsheet, and you're going to learn how to make everything connect and make it look good, because it's all fun and games until, and I know I had Team Builder at Metro and at Mines, but my first half at Metro, I didn't have Team Builder. I had Excel.
Mhm.
And when it's easy to manage like 8 or 9 athletes, but when I went to like a couple hundred by myself, that the Excel spreadsheet has to be working. And, you know, it was a lot of times I was spending a couple hours on the weekend on YouTube, just trying to make one damn cell to like match up to the other cell. But I try to eliminate the fluff. And my big thing is I'm gonna make you a full-blown assistant on my staff. But when you're done here, part of the internship curriculum is you have to have somewhere to go when you're done. Like you have to be applying to a GA, another internship, another semester here. You have to go somewhere. And that's, and I'll explain a little bit about the interview preparedness. But yeah, so I want to make sure that coaches, when they leave here and they go to somebody else's staff, they're going to be like, look, this person knows what they're talking about. Like they've been in, they can manage their way through any type of program. And I mean, even with Jamal, who's over there on your staff now, when he went to University of Mary, I was like, look, you don't mess around with these people, and like know how to be a good strength coach, no matter D2, D1, or I don't know, you can be in caveman as long as you take a rock and train your athlete, like you'll know what you're doing. So the first week is a little bit of just how we go about things. And I take, like, if the intern messes up, is because I didn't show you correctly. So I always take the ownership on that. So a lot of interns, like, if my goal is like, look, if you mess up, it's likely because I didn't tell you. So I'll fix it by telling you and showing you exactly how it is. And if it's a repeat problem, then we'll address that. But normally it's a lack of communication with this stuff. So the first week is, you know, getting here, getting to know our racks, showing where all the cleaning supplies is, showing and putting, I actually take our interns and put them through our team lifts. So, because you know, you shouldn't be programming anything you don't know what it feels like or don't know what they're going through. Now, they don't have to perform it like the athletes do, but you should be able to come in here, know what our warm-up feels like, know what one of our workouts feel like. And I just take them through it. And it's kind of just an introductory welcome to collegiate strength and conditioning. And I always send articles with them over the week, and articles that I've accumulated throughout the years of like the dying art of the strength and conditioning, and whether or not you should have a GA or not, first year coaching, why the value of unpaid internships, just a lot of stuff where like I know what you're going through. Like I know what it's like to be like, look at yourself at 4:30 in the morning. You're like, why am I doing this for no money right now? So I just want to let them know, like, this is a real world look of our work and like what the business is, but also like, we're here for you. Like, you're not the only one to have done that. And then, you know, the next week, dynamic correspondence, you know, just how to look at an athlete or a team and be able to be like, all right, I can conjure up some version of a workout for you. And then we go into, you know, we touch a little bit into programming throughout the next couple of weeks after that, like introducing the prolipin charts and APRE. The big thing for me is making sure what they're going to see out in the field are the programs they're getting exposed to. So we have them do presentations and actually have them write up a workout, and they put themselves through like a mesocycle of the either tier, linear, conjugate, block, triphasic, anything, you know, anything that we're seeing out there, APRE 531, anything that we see other coaches being used, we're going to expose them to that. I'm not going to say I prefer one or the other, because I think they all have their merits, but going to somebody else's staff, there's probably gonna be a version of any one of those going on, and I want to make sure they know how to use it. So if I sent them to, let's just play anywhere else, and they walk in, the coach is like, I use triphasic tier system, they could be like, all right, got you. Like, I don't maybe not know the finite details of it all, but I know what both of those are and how they work. So they have some sort of competence in the most widely used programming and periodization schemes that they're going to see in collegiate sports. I'm more tailor fitting them to like collegiate sports, like the team aspect. You might see some more advanced stuff in other settings, but I just want to make sure that they can walk into a weight room and be like, I know what's going on here. And then on the process, they can use it and put themselves through it. And they might be like, I loved 5-3-1. I got strong. I felt it. Or they can say like, I hated APRE. Like APRE was just murder. So, but at least they can say like, I know what they're going through. And then we could teach them how to do priority lists, Metcon, energy system development. And that's the first half. It's just the X's and O's of what we do and biomechanics, and just be like, look, because I know one thing for sure with Lauren Landau, that guy grilled me on anatomy and physiology. And luckily I was really good at it. So like I played right into my wheelhouse, but there was times where I was like, shoot, like if I would have known, like I was memorizing every origin and insertion of the most random muscles, I would have brushed up on it. But luckily, like I said, I did well. But I just realized the science and the X's and O's, like the book stuff doesn't disappear just because you're done. So that's the first half of the internship, is like getting back into the anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, and then programming, just like the really strong, heavy dose of science, just going at them, along with helping us coach our teams and everything. And then the last half is tailor fitted towards getting the interns out of there or trying to become better strength coaches. Because I figured halfway through the semester, if you haven't quit, then like you're really about that life. And I'm not saying like we're trying to put them through the ring or anything, but like I say, they're thirsty, and I just open up a fire hose and see who's standing. Like after I turn it off, like I'm just going to give you all things strength and conditioning. You'll be working with us and getting a good dose of what we do. And then if you're still standing after 8 weeks, I figured like, all right, like this person wants it, and so let's get them hired. So the last half we do go like through social media stuff, and because whether you like it or not, like social media, it's widely used by just about everybody. Granted, there's some people doing out some ridiculous stuff, but there's a lot of good coaches putting out a lot of good things. And I was talking to one of the coaches on the podcast that social media is like a digital resume. So you can't be a coach now. I don't think there are some real coaches out there have no social media presence, but now for the most part, what you put out there, other coaches look at it. And I'm sure everybody that comes to your staff, you at least take a glance at whether or not they have Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter, and how they go about composing themselves on there. So it's just a little reminder, like, stuff that you did and stuff that I did when we were a freshman at our first university, like, either take it down or just realize people are looking at this stuff. And then the big thing is interview preparedness. And this helps them go on when they're done with the internship to pretty successful places. Is I make them interview for the last half of the internship. So your job is to interview, and I know your strengths and weaknesses, and I'll like to be like, this is gonna be a tough interview. It's gonna be, I'm gonna put you through the ringer, and just to let them know like they can handle their way. And I'll teach them how to do the resume and cover letter and all that, but they should be able to handle their way through a tough interview with somebody who's trying to get you. Because the next interview you're going to do is going to be the team that actually likes you. You have what they're looking for, and it'll be a little easier. But I think the success of the interview preparedness has helped our alumni be like very broad alumni network at the NFL, D1, D2, D3, even high school level. So, and then the big thing is, there are two big things: the coaching gauntlet, which is part of the crisis diversion. And then, that goes back to Mike Tyson quote, everybody has a plan until they get hit in the face. And that's one thing I realized when I became the head strength coach. I want to be all scientific, but when I had 16 teams, it was just like 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. team, and then 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. team. And I realized, like, if I'm going to survive, like it doesn't have to be the most scientific or perfect setup, because like literally I didn't have time to set up in between teams, or I would just get behind, and then a lot of it is just like real world stuff. I have like a deck of cards that I write real world problems on, and I have my interns, I don't tell them though, But I have my interns like you're going to train the staff and you're going to train the other interns and you're going to pretend we're the football team. So you're going to come out here and get ready. And me and my staff were all out there, and the other interns we're going to be your athletes. And so our intern comes in full triphasic, ready to go, feeling pretty good. And I'm like, all right, hold up. There's a deck of cards. You draw a card. And one of them's like, all right, the team got in trouble for partying. Coach is really angry. So they made him run 120, down and backs, 120 down and back. So they come in, you had a leg day planned and they're completely dead. So what are you going to do about it? Or let's say one of them would be like, you draw it, one of your star athletes did not eat breakfast and they get really pale and they pass out, or like they're getting lightheaded or they start throwing up. What are you going to do? Or one athlete rolls the ankle. Like, it's not a perfect world. Like, that stuff happens all the time. And I think that's what I'm trying to prepare them for. So I call it the coaching gauntlet, and they pull a couple cards and they're like, there's no way this stuff has ever happened. And I was like, believe me, like, I've been in it long enough to know this is all, I didn't make this up. This is all happening to me in the weight room, or one team's running late, so you barely get through the warm up. The other team got there early. So what are you going to do? So I just try to like give them some real world scenarios. And for the most part, they're just pure panic. But then I just teach them afterwards, like, observe, orient, and then decide and act, like the OODA loop, just like know how to plan. And then I always try to get them to be like, plan for the worst case scenario, because that's what I'm doing before my lift. I get really quiet and I start looking around and they're like, what are you always doing? I'm like, I'm thinking about like what could all go wrong and what could all go right, and making sure you have a plan for it. So that's like the crisis diversion is like in critical thinking. Or you have athletes that have health issues and they just come up right in the middle of the lift, and you're just, instead of figuring out like, why me, like, you should have a plan of action. And then that's when we introduce them to emergency action plans. What if an athlete completely passes out and they're unresponsive? Like, what are you going to do? You can't just sit there when the whole team's like looking at you. So to have a plan for everything that can and will go wrong. But the more common things are just athletes are running late, or they just got in trouble with their coach and they're getting ran down. So if you have a 90% squat lined up for the day, but they're coming right after practice, like barely able to walk, like, is it really prudent to try to go about and get that leg day done? Or is it a good idea just maybe alter it a little bit? And so that's a crisis. It's called the gauntlet. And a lot of my former interns laugh about it, but we had an intern that called me up and they're like, yo, what happened in the gauntlet just happened to me today in the real world scenario. So thanks for putting me through that, because I had a plan for it. So I was like, I was doing my civic duty, trying to help these young coaches out and make sure they're ready for the real world. So now that's it. And then we end with a full 1 year program for a very popular team that we might have, and get them going. So that is the curriculum. It's very thorough. And my big thing is just literally everything in books that I can give you and everything in real applicable like knowledge is my goal throughout the internship. And when they're done, I have very high confidence that our interns could go either get a full-time job or GA or a next step somewhere and be able to survive.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that gauntlet idea. I may have to get myself a deck of cards now. No, that's great. And I think as well with the interview prep, it's almost like you give them a grill and you give them a hard interview. It's almost like, in terms of what we do, it's like functional overreaching, right? You have that area where it's like, wow, you really pushed pretty hard, and then the next time you have an interview, it's like, that was a piece of cake.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, that's why I tell them, like, when you apply somewhere that they're willing to call you back and interview, that means you have something that they like and they have something you like, so it's definitely a lot easier when both people like you. But with me, I'm just like, I'm going to prepare you for like your worst interview possible. Like, I know your strength and weaknesses. I've worked with you for a couple months, and but I also, like I said, I'm always helping them out. So I'm always preparing them for the worst case scenario, but giving them the tools to succeed and how to dress and what kind of questions to expect and, program philosophy, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, no, that's great. So like you mentioned, you've had a number of coaches develop under your wing, whether in the last year there or at previous institutions as well. But I wonder if you could tell me, maybe just pick like, let's say like two people who have been former interns of yours that have then moved on. What were they like when they were with you? And why do you think they were successful at moving on and growing in the field?
No doubt. That's a good question. So I think the largest success that I've had is the people that tend to stick around for maybe a semester or two, because they realize like I'm gonna really dive into this. And one was Nicole Shattuck, and she went from, at the time when she was at Metro, she was an assistant at Metro, and then she went to Wofford College, and then she went to Bucknell, and then now she's the strength coach at Duke for their lacrosse teams. But man, there was nothing I could give her where she was like unflappable. Like she didn't bat an eye. Like, and she was in an interesting intern cohort where she was a really high functioning coach, but then we had some just complete people that just, they realized like this wasn't what they wanted. But there was nothing I could do to like make her waver. Like she was just on top of it. I mean, she was working as a personal trainer in New York, and she applied to be an intern in Denver. And I was like, all right, like, the internship starts in a week. Like if you want, like, it's here for you, but I'm not going to tell you like you have to be here. I was like, if you want, like, and she literally sold her business, packed up everything from like New York City, drove out to Denver, and was like ready to work on Monday. And I was like, all right, like, if you're willing to like alter your life for something that you believe in so much, then like I'll do everything I possibly can to make sure you're a success. And she absolutely is a success. And it's just, I mean, there's even like Jamal, who's on your staff, like he was a really, really smart coach, but he had to learn how to be able to communicate better with teams. And like, he's a track guy. So like for him to communicate and work with the track team was easy, but teams that are not like what you're used to, he had to learn how to do that. But he was always willing to learn. I mean, even little things like even music. I was like, look, there's more to weight room music than just like hip hop. Like you got it, or I was like, look, listen to some old school rock and roll and all this stuff. And like he would go through and he's like, I listened to all the albums, I think it was good. Like this team likes it and whatnot. It was like literally there was no aspects that I could give him where he wasn't resistant to it. Plus, and he was one of the few coaches out there where he challenged me to be a better coach, specifically with programming. Because for me, it's like, and at the time when I didn't have very much help, we had a lot of teams. It was just like, look, just don't hurt them. And I was just making sure, like, as long as everybody's generally moving well, getting stronger, and you know how it is with the NCAA, it's just there's dead periods and all that stuff. So I was just in general just make them better and don't hurt them. But Jamal was able to research some pretty advanced topics and be like, look, I think we could apply this. It might look a little different at the collegiate level with like very little control over schedule, but we can probably apply these high level and more advanced concepts and situations and make it happen. So those are just two examples of a very large list of alumni that we have. And I take pride in it. Austin Pfeffer, he's also on that list I gave you. He went from here to Louisville to G-Dub, and now he's got a whole bunch of places lined up for his next step. And just, it takes a little bit of humility, and not degradation, but like humility, being able to come in and be like, look, I don't know it all. I'm willing to work and learn, and I'm willing to try to understand everything I'm trying to apply, because it's easy to get resentful in this whole thing. It's just like Isaiah, just this whole crisis diversion is just him being a complete psychopath. And just, but if you can sit back and be like, oh, he probably went through these same things, and like he saw these in a workout, so that's why he's giving it to us, so we can act like we've seen it before. I think that's what my most successful alum from our program is, just very good people, and whether or not they're the smartest people, because I don't think the smartest people always become the best coach. Some of them do, but for the most part, if you have a really solid program, but you're a good person and you can create buy-in on that team, then you're a good coach, because
Oh yeah, it's huge.
it doesn't matter if you're, it doesn't matter if you're scientific with it. If the team hates you, like, you're going to get fired, or like, you're just like, you're going to lose that team. But you could also be a mediocre coach on science, but have all the buy-in, you like are about that life, and the team loves you. Like, if that team runs to a wall for you, which one's the best program? Like, the least scientific, but the team's all bought in, or all scientific, but the team doesn't care what you say because they don't like you. So the coaches that tend to do the most are the ones that are humble and they're able to apply both things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I often think about that in terms of like academia and professors and lecturers, right? You get those, like, so for example, I went to the school in the UK at Loughborough University, which is renowned as being like a high performing sport and exercise science university. But when I went through my undergrad, when they gave me the form at the end of the 3 years, like, hey, give us some feedback about undergrad, I like ripped them a new one, because they had like some of the best minds in the world in terms of research capacity and scientists at Loughborough who were teaching the undergraduate courses, and they couldn't teach. Like, they had no idea how to engage, how to make us feel interested, anything like that. So just like yeah, it's the same in coaching, right? You can't have like all the book smarts and yeah, write down, as you say, this perfect program if you can't get across to them, like, make them believe that this is their own and it's important. And yeah, and they want to run through a wall for you. That's what you want, right? Yeah, that's great. That's perfect.
Definitely.
So then, in terms of like wrapping this whole thing up, in terms of new coaches and developing intern coaches who want to come out to Mines, you know, obviously you've had people travel across the country from New York to come to you guys, which is awesome. But what are you looking for in these new coaches? Is there any particular skill sets you're really wanting to harness right now, or is it just general characteristics that you're looking for?
Just humble and hungry, because I don't think I'm in the position yet where I could be like, all right, I only want sports scientist, or I only want a performance basketball coach. It's just like, if you're humble and hungry and you want to take that next step into strength conditioning, come on over. Like, we got a great campus. We got 2 very large weight rooms, and we're about to renovate one of them. And I don't know if you've ever been to Colorado, but a lot of people that have love it. Like, we're very nice climate, even though it's snowing today, but it's going to be 50 or 60 tomorrow. So very nice climate. It's, you know, we're right in, I think Golden is in the best spot because we're right in what some people on the East Coast might call mountains. We call them foothills, but like, we're right in the mountains, or right next to the mountains, but we're only a 10-minute drive from downtown Denver. So we get the best of both worlds. Like, we get the mountain, like that mountain life, without having to like be isolated or being snowed in anywhere. But I mean, great kids. Like, we do a really good job winning. Like, we're lucky that we have a majority of our sports teams do really well in their sport, and or, you know, we win conference championships and regionals and whatnot. And but man, the kids are good here. Like, we're an engineering school, and we don't lower our academic standards for our athletes. So they come in here and they're taking differential equations, Calc 4, thermodynamics, and all this stuff. And I'm legit in shock. I was like, there's things like, one of our wrestlers is getting a master's in quantum mechanics. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. like I know, like, it has to do something with very small subatomic particles. And I was like, you're sitting here getting a master's, doing a master's thesis in this stuff. And that's just not just that one wrestler, it's every single athlete we got. So they're all very highly intelligent people with the intrinsic drive that they have, because that's just what it takes to be them. Like, these are extremely hyper intelligent individuals, and just to be able to maintain academic eligibility here, you have to be very disciplined. They're very regimented and brilliant. So that's the kind of athlete we have in here. All of our teams, basketball, football, wrestling, softball, they're all very high level operating individuals that are super intelligent and very driven and for the most part very organized. So it's a great place to be. And our admin believes in us, and our head strength. I have a family and kids, and then he's got a family and he's got kids too. And a lot of people say family and they're like, our teams are family, but their personal families are just a wreck because they're spending more time around other people's kids than their own. But it's not the case here. And we do a good job making sure that we do have a couple long days. There might be a day or two in a semester where we might go 10 or 12 hours, but for the most part, we're not here guarding our desk. Like we definitely understand the scope of that family life. And even if you don't have a family, like just having a personal life or social life. And I think we're getting close to mastering the whole, not necessarily balance, because I don't think you should have to balance things. It should just, everything should be integrated. But we understand that a happy coach or like a more happy person tends to do better work.
Oh yeah.
And it's just how it is. It's hard to, if I'm asking you 12 hours a day, 5 days a week for the whole semester, and I've seen what resentment does to coaches, and it's not a good thing. So I think being here, like I'm going to help you learn, but I do take into account like, hey, like I got to take my kids to school today, so I'm gonna get here at 9, so you can get here at 9 too, and we'll take off a little early. Like it's just, there's more to life than strength conditioning. So I do my best to prepare those coaches with all out effort. Like I said, I just give them a whole bunch of stuff to read, and they're just going to be thrown right into the fire. But I give you the tools to do that. And one of those tools is also like, hey, you can go have a social life, or if you like to hike, go hike, or if you like to fish, go fish. Or one of my assistants, she rock climbs, like whatever it is that makes you balanced and like want to come back to the weight room, go do it and be happy. Life's short.
Yeah. Love it. No, super refreshing to hear that. I'm hearing more and more of that now, which is great. You know, we don't need to babysit an empty weight room. Like get out there, refresh, recharge your batteries, come back, so that every day when you wake up, you're like excited for what you're about to do. Exactly. Rather than resent it. That's great. That's awesome. So yeah, obviously anyone who's watching the video can see all the other details on mine's page right now in terms of like dates, durations, deadlines, application material required. So if you have any questions for Coach here, obviously feel free to reach out to him. His email address is at the bottom. I'm sure he'd be happy to field any questions. But deadline's coming up in May, I believe. Obviously that's on the page. But Coach, thanks a lot for your time. It sounds like you got an awesome thing going on. I'm definitely stealing the gauntlet idea.
Yeah, awesome.
There'll be decks of cards in every weight room from
absolutely. Yes, absolutely. It's just good to know that they could be like, oh, I've seen this before. I got a plan, because you're the person leading that workout and they look at you and you're panicked, so they're gonna panic. So it's always good to be like, all right, I got this. And always reach out, even if you're not interested in becoming coming down to Golden, reach out. Like we got a pretty extensive network, and I got coaches, and it's weird. I got coaches around the country that I've never even met before. They're like, do you have an intern that wants to come over here, GA, or be an assistant? Because we've heard about the program you're doing. And then I also, do know a lot of coaches that I've been blessed to encounter a lot of coaches either through the job or through the podcast. And they're just like, hey, I have a job opened up. Do you have anybody that wants to come over here, any state and any version for a full-time job? And normally I'm like, yeah, I got my alumni network, and I just like group me, and I'll just throw out a text, be like, job here, this is how much it pays, apply if you're interested. So, or if not, hit me up and we can talk shop.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks so much. And we'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Coach.